and I'm just trying to get everything set up. Hold on one second. Trying to get everything together. Okay. Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to get everything straight up. Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lions Den show right here on Haps TV. Um, this Saturday is the 20th anniversary of what happened on September the 11th. Um, I know a lot of you guys have stories. I know a lot of you guys going through a lot through that during that day, and some may not even been born. Some who live live a long life like myself or longer. I mean, witness of what happened and the events that happened. Um, I was on Clubhouse this morning, and I will give a shout out to a brother. I forgot the guy's name, and he hosted the room on Clubhouse talking about where were you the events of September the 11th. Um, and I'm just gonna start out with what happened with me. This to me is very personal. You know, living in the DC area, I would never forget it. I've been through a lot. Um, I've been through and see, I've been through a whole lot, guys. You know, 9/11 is basically touching me throughout. And when you have incidents like this, if for people who live in New York, for people who live in the DMV, you know, at that time, we all witnessed what happened that day. For myself, I'm gonna tell you what happened for myself. It's not about everybody else, but it's just what happened to me on that tragic day. It all starts with, and I used to live in Greenbelt, Maryland at the time. Um, when I started out, I was getting ready to go to the Pentagon because remember I was unemployed, and I was trying to look for jobs at that time. So I was basically trying to get ready. It was believed it was that morning, early that morning. Um, I was trying to get dressed and everything, trying to get everything together. Um, the thing of it is that I was watching. When I remember, I was watching the Today Show, and basically, I was getting ready to go to the Pentagon and try to apply for jobs over there. And then when the plane hit the South Tower or the North Tower of the World Trade Center, um, we all thought it was of like a small plane engine and everything else. And I was like, okay, whoa, or it's like, is this a movie? Are they trying to do a movie or whatever? Um, but it turns out it was for real. Now, keep in mind, because I was getting ready to take a shower, and I was getting ready to get dressed and get ready to go to the Pentagon, right? So I took a shower. Well, no, I didn't took a shower as of yet. Um, when I was getting ready to go to take a shower, that's when the plane hit plane hit the first plane hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. So the second plane, I believe, hit the South Tower, if I'm not mistaken. But when the second plane hit the World Trade Center building, that's when I froze. That's when I sit down and froze, and I just during that time I couldn't move. I just watched the events. I couldn't even move at all. It was kind of like a horror film that you can't miss parts of the movie. That's basically how it felt for me. Um and then it's like moments later, you know, Washington DC alone, the city of DC alone. has been completely shut down because of the terrorist attacks of what's going on in New York. Um, the thing is that when I watched this, I just couldn't move. I just couldn't believe what is happening. I received a phone call from my mother from my mother's friend at the time, and she was concerned about my mother. She was because my mother works with the federal government at that time. So she, talked to me and asked, "Have you heard from her?" I told her the last time I heard from my mom at that time was she was out and she was on her way to work. So then her boss, didn't. I mean, basically her boss told her to go home for the day because there's an emergency going on. That was before the third plane hit the Pentagon. So when the so I'm continue watching the events that happened on in New York. When two planes hit the twin towers. So it's about an hour and a half later. It was about an hour and a half later. That's when the third plane hit the Pentagon. I was completely stunned. Anisha, and welcome to the live. I was couldn't even move when the third plane hit the Pentagon because I was getting ready to go to the Pentagon to apply for jobs. Because remember, back then you can go to in store, you can go to stores or any department stores to apply for jobs. They don't do it anymore. You gotta apply online. But during that time, sat on my TV in my room, saw that the plane just hit the Pentagon, and something tells me not to go over there. And and I'm glad I didn't go. I was about to take a shower, about to get dressed and go out and go towards the Pentagon, but I'm glad I didn't go. So when I try to call my mother at the time, I only reach her voicemail. And during that time, like I said, the cell phone towers, like in New York, in DC, the cell phone towers at that time was shut down because the city of DC alone was completely shut down. Um, and then the fourth plane, there's been speculation that the fourth plane, if there's been brave passengers making sure that that plane didn't, because they know it was a terrorist trying to take over planes. That the fourth plane, of course, they crashed into Pennsylvania, but the fourth plane could have hit either the U.S. Capitol or the White House, but more likely the U.S. Capitol because it's easily to see it. But during that time, I mean, my mom was. I mean, I guess she was. I mean, she's trying to come back home, as I know. She was trying to come. She was trying to go back home. It was the subways alone. It was straightly crowded. It was completely crowded. Nobody can go in. Nobody can go out. And at that time, it was crazy. Luckily, my mom came home and she came home safe. Um, but to me, two people worked at the Pentagon. I mean, one of the friends of the family that I remember, the friend of the family survived because he worked at the Pentagon, but he made it out okay. Unfortunately, my mother's co-worker's mother at that time, she also worked in the Pentagon. She didn't make it. She lost her life in this tragic day. There's been, we hearing that they found her body in this rubble. Um, there's a watch. I mean, she wore a watch, and at the same time that the plane hit the Pentagon, that watch didn't even, I mean, not the watch, but the hand of the watch didn't even move. So it basically hurts to the core of what happened that day on September the 11th. So as during that time they ordered planes grounded. It's like, for the last couple of days. Like, at that time they was ordered the planes grounded. Nobody goes depart. Nobody flies out. Nobody lands. Some of the planes have to remember. Some of the planes during that time have to go to Canada. That's how bad it was at that day. They had to like reroute it to Canada instead of here because of 9/11. So when this tragedy happened, I couldn't even move. When the twin towers collapsed, that's when I'm just like sitting here, just basically sitting here with. I couldn't even hardly move. Like, this is the twin. This was the twin towers in New York, and you see it basically collapsing in front of our eyes. It was so bad. It was horrible. And I see people, and there's videos. Some people have to jump off the twin towers, literally jump off. This is really crazy. Like, people literally, and I know some of y'all on as in my fan base. Some of y'all here on my live might not remember because some of y'all might not even been born, and some do remember as a child growing up, and some in my age, Gen Xers, or um that saw what happened, that remembered what happened, will tell you stories every single year of the anniversary. So, and then that's when the Pentagon, parts of the Pentagon has collapsed. Not all of it, but parts of it. And then there's a crash in Pennsylvania, the Fort plane that was basically targeting either the White House or the US Capitol. But but when I saw what happened, I can't even move. I was crying. It was surreal. It was like we all thought it was a movie. We all thought it was a prank. We all thought it was a hoax, but it wasn't. Nearly 3,000 people lost their lives that day. Nearly 3,000 people. And I was still in my house. My mom finally got home, and thank God for that. But the friend of a friend of the family, he worked at the Pentagon. He survived. He basically survived, without a scratch. But when my mama told me the story so many times about her co-worker's mother, um, who literally were one of the victims that were killed in the Pentagon attack. How they said that they found, her body in the rubble. They said that she had a watch, the hand on the watch that, when the plane hit the Pentagon, it was the same time the hand didn't even move. It's just crazy. It's beyond. During that time, I just couldn't believe that it really happened to our country, that America is under attack. So when the plane was grounded and nobody goes in, nobody goes out, a week after the attacks happened, it's just a week after that. During that time, DC Metro, with the subways, they have free. People can go on the subway for free just to check out the wreckage of the Pentagon. And I was one of those people to check it out for myself. When I was arrived, I walked through this whole. It was basically when I walk through the out of the tunnel of the Pentagon, um, there's plenty of people there. There's I saw the wreckage of the Pentagon myself. There's gates. There's basically National Guards circling around the Pentagon. You got all these military, like one of the Humvees, the military Humvee was standing in guard when the M16 in their hands. I saw it firsthand, and basically, I was sitting down. I'll never forget it. I was sitting down in front of the gate of the where the Pentagon, where the wreckage of the Pentagon was, and I was just down. I was just saddened throughout everything. And it was like in front of the Pentagon, basically you got a building. It's like a building right across from the Pentagon. And this big building have the biggest American flag you've ever seen in your entire life. Just put the biggest American flag on the building. And so you got basically got Arlington, Virginia, right? That's where basically the Pentagon and everything else. Right, it's right before you enter Washington D.C. So I've been there for nearly like I said 35 to 45 minutes, just sitting there in front of that gate, praying. That's all I do was just pray, you know. And I see strangers hugging each other. I see strangers crying, all in that day, all that same week that we went to the Pentagon when after I saw the wreckage. People were there crying, hugging, and they were strangers. They haven't seen each other. They haven't seen each other before. They were just. We were we were just literally there, and that time after I've been there for almost 30 minutes or more, I went back home. Went back home, and I'm just basically saddened because I was getting ready to go to the Pentagon that day just to look for jobs. And believe me, the only reason why I didn't go that day is because of what's going on in New York with the World Trade Center. How the planes, both planes hit the Twin Towers. That's the only reason why I didn't go to the Pentagon. One of my friends, his girlfriend said that she witnessed the plane hitting the Pentagon. She witnessed it she witnessed it herself. So every anniversary, and I'm just being honest, ever since we talk about this, it gives me nightmares. Sometimes it gives me anxiety. Um, I don't know if I got PTSD or not, but I'm close to that because of what happened. And to me, it's sad that we has. It's today. This day, I will never forget. September 11th, 2001. A lot of people say, let not forget that day. Remember 9/11, and I'm gonna tell these people, listen, you don't have to tell me that. I lived it. I lived 9/11. I was in the city that the incident happened. If you live in New York or if you live in DMV, we lived it. And some of us lost family members, lost loved ones because of that fateful day. to think about this, it shows you that we're never going to forget what happened. We're never going to forget the brave men and women, the firefighters, the police officers, the first responders that tried so hard to save people's lives during that fateful day. And even the men and women in the military that risked their lives for our freedom. Now, every year, every anniversary, I've been going through so much. I mean, living in the DMV for almost 24 years, I've been through a lot. September the 11th, the anthrax attacks, the DC snipers. I've been through all of that. And the thing of it is that we'll never forget. If you live in the DC area, you never forget incidents like this. And it's really, every year it's like, and like I said, I've been on Clubhouse this morning telling my story of what's happened that day, and everybody has their different stories of what happened that day. Some of them lost family members. Some of them, lost loved ones. And it's important for people to really realize that if you have a loved one, if you know someone that lost their lives that day, you're never going to forget it. Now, some people, some ignorant people were going to tell y'all, oh, um, get over 9/11, get over September the 11th. It's been the past, move on. People are going to tell you that. And I would never get over 9/11 because I lived it. Some of the people who live in the DC area, who lives in New York, they won't forget 9/11 because they lived it. And people lost loved ones and family members and friends because of this tragedy. And I'm telling y'all, it's important for people to understand one thing and one thing only. We will never forget what happened on September the 11th, 2001. We will never forget it. I won't forget it because I was getting ready to go to the Pentagon that day. I won't forget it because we have a friend of the family that works at the Pentagon. Luckily, he made it out alive without a scratch. I won't forget that day because my mother told me so many times that her co-worker's mother was one of the victims that were killed in the Pentagon attack. No one would forget that day. If you live in New York, if you live in the DC area, none of us will forget that day. None of us. There's family members, loved ones, friends, colleagues that were there. And they were one of the victims on 9/11. Nearly 2,000 people were killed in the most biggest terrorist attacks in American history. And a lot of people said, get over it. You want us to get over that? No, no. And I'm sorry. You can't get over something that you witnessed. You can't. You can't. And I remember, when you see, former President George W. Bush, you see the former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, you know, back then. I'm not talking about now, how they are now. I'm talking about back then. When you see former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani basically telling his citizens about what is happening, and he was there when 9/11 happened. He made a speech that really affects people. Now I don't know what's going on with Rudy Giuliani now, but I'm talking about back then when he was a mayor. He was a mayor of New York. He basically is already. I mean, he was a survivor. He's preaching all of these New Yorkers of how it is how it is on New York. But then you have a lot of things going on behind the scenes we don't even know about. There's rumors, there's quote unquote conspiracy theories of what really happened on 9/11. But and I'm gonna tell you like this, and I'm gonna end this in this live stream. For those of you who remembers 9/11 and experience what happened like I've been experienced, for the brave men and women, firefighters, police officers, first responders who risked their lives saving people, for the brave men and women in the military who risked their lives fighting for our freedom in Afghanistan. I salute each and every one of you guys. I salute y'all because without them, we don't even know what would happen today. And I'm gonna keep it real. You know, it's what we're seeing, y'all. Is like I'm still having sometimes I'm still having nightmares, but I'm still having every time every time there's an anniversary of 9/11, I just wish that it didn't happen, but it did. But to the brave men and women that risk their lives saving people's lives or fighting for our freedom, I salute you. You guys have my respect, have my love and support, and you know, and that's all I have to say about this because if I go on and on, it's gonna be more emotional. It's gonna be more heartbreaks. But I love you guys and stay safe out there. But I just want to give you my story of what happened on that tragic day on the 20-year anniversary of what happened on September 11th, 2001, where I was, what happened to my family, what happened to our colleagues, our friends. I mean, anybody has stories, and I'm just telling you mine right here. So I will go ahead and get out of here, and thank you guys for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Have a blessed Saturday, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.